What is going on, guys? I know I haven't really been around a lot for the last couple of months or so. I've been really busy with school stuff, but I should be free to drop videos for the next couple of months at least. With that being said, in between studying for exams and going to classes, I stumbled upon a manga that for some reason I've never heard about before, and its first season had already been adapted. This manga is called Undead Unluck. There's gonna be a lot of spoilers in this video, so for those of you who still want to read the manga, this is probably where you should stop. But for everyone else, buckle up for some of the wildest powers I've ever seen in the manga. So, before we dive in, a little bit of backstory. Undead Unluck is a manga written by Yoshifumo Tozuka and started its sterilization with Shonen Jump in 2020. The manga starts off with Izumo Fuko, who after finishing the last chapter of her favorite manga, decides to take her life by jumping off a bridge. But before she can enact her plan, she's stopped by a tall, shirtless guy, who then proceeds to fall off the bridge and get hit by a train. But somehow he survives, because apparently he can't die. This is Undead, also known as Andy. And our very inexperienced base jumper over there is Fuko, also known as Unluck. Both of them have been granted special powers known as negation abilities. These abilities negate the rules of the world, and people with said abilities are called negators. Negation abilities are usually awoken by a tragedy in someone's life. Most of the time, the tragedy itself is caused by the negation ability. Fuko, for instance, hugged her parents before they got on the flight and caused the plane to crash. Andy has been searching for a way to die and believes Fuko Unluck might be just what he needs to overcome Undead. But before they could get far with the plan, they are recruited. And I say recruited loosely because they basically killed members and took their place in an organization called the Union, which is made up of negators who fight against monsters known as Umas or rules, in an attempt to kill the creator of their negation abilities and the cause of the world suffering, the Uma Sun, or in this world, God. On their journey to kill God, they fight Umas like spring, spoil, thirst, sickness, burn, the list goes on. They fight against a group of negators known as Under, who have some of the coolest negation powers in the series, all in an attempt to rid the world of the world's greatest evil. Now, back to why we're really here, their powers. Fuko negates the rule of luck. At first, anyone who comes in direct contact with their skin is targeted by a stroke of unluck, most times powerful enough to kill them. The scale of the unluck depends on how much Fuko likes the targets and how long they were in contact with her for. But slowly she evolved to the point that she was able to store her unluck in bullets and fire them off from a distance. So far, the strongest stroke of unluck we've ever seen from Fuko is summoning a barrage of meteorites, which now that I say it is actually pretty overpowered. Andy negates death, which means that anything that actively leads to his death triggers a level of regeneration that is frankly absurd. Any and everything ranging from drowning to total and complete atomic disintegration, as long as it will kill him, just won't. And it makes sure he absolutely abuses this power. After having billions of years to train and hone his skills, Andy has gained total and complete control over his regenerative abilities. He can cause his blood to regenerate at such high speed he fires off body parts as weapons at the speed of sound. He can pump out blood so fast he can basically fly. He can regrow his detached limbs, forming temporary clones of himself. I mean, this man keeps a sword sheathed in his spine and uses it by firing it out of his spine and making a giant blade of blood. Oh yeah, he's also a world-renowned sword master. And he isn't even the most interesting negator. Unchange, one of the initial members of the Union, and wielder of one of the strongest restraining abilities in her verse. She can negate anything she perceives as change, but she mostly limits it to causing the unchange of natural phenomenon around her, creating constructs or barriers out of unchanging air around her, going as far as creating a giant blade of air and using it to cut a major Uma in half. Her barriers are strong enough to hold some of the strongest Umas and negators in the verse. It even took a barrage from Undecrease, a negator who negates the decrease of ammunition, basically making him a one-man military. Unrepair. Unrepair, or RIP, is a member of the group known as Under, and for a while was a big threat to Andy and Fuko. His ability is the negation of anything he sees as repair, meaning any wound he inflicts on you will not heal until he dies, meaning that if he cuts you in the slightest, the cuts will bleed out until you eventually die of blood loss. And to make sure he does cut you, he amputated his own legs and attached artifacts in their place that fires off giant blades that can slice through buildings. which now that I think about it still doesn't make sense, seeing as how if he cut off his own legs, his legs shouldn't stop bleeding up until he dies. He even manages to give Undead a hard time. He has to cut off his body parts at a higher point than when Unrepair cut him in order to regenerate. But seeing as how he cuts off his own feet for enhanced speed, and he pretty much has it covered. Next on the list we have Unjustice, the leader of the Union and wielder of one of the strongest visual negation abilities in the verse. Unjustice negates your beliefs or goals or anything that pertains to your idea of justice. Early in the manga, with the addition of the Uma galaxy to the world, aliens were born and they tried to take over the earth with an empire level of numbers. Unjustice simply stepped outside, looked at the entire armada, reverted their idea of justice, causing them to attack and destroy themselves, and it went back inside like nothing ever happened. And this works on everybody, human and Umas alike, as long as the target is even remotely sentient. If she looks at you, everything you ever hoped to achieve gets flipped on its head. Like you could try to shoot her and end up pointing your gun at your best friend. Next on the list we have Unbreakable. Now, Unbreakable is quite different when it comes to negation abilities. Instead of it being caused by a traumatic event in their user's life, Unbreakable is passed down by a long line of blacksmiths from generation to generation. Unbreakable boasts one of the most important negation abilities in the Union. Having the ability to negate an object's tendency to break, Unbreakable crafts most of the weapons, armor, and defensive structures in the Union. Anything Unbreakable produces becomes, well, unbreakable, and it can only be destroyed by a more unbreakable device. Unbreakable has stopped blades, gunfire, and even some of Fugo's meteorites. And at one point, after a piece of Unbreakable was absorbed by the Uma beast and gained Unbreakable skin, Unbreakable created an even stronger version of Unbreakable in the form of armor, which was then used by Unstoppable to pierce through the Uma beast. Finally, my all-time favorite negator, Unfair. Now, Unfair has the simplest and easily the most deadly negation ability in the verse. Unfair allows its user to negate what he considers as being fair, and what the current user Billy sees as fairness is the fact that one person can only have one negation ability, and that has led to Billy being able to copy and use the negation abilities of anyone that views him as a threat. And with the deck of powers he has acquired, everyone sees him as a threat. He has copied and used Undead, Unmove, Unbalance, Unchange, Unavoidable, Undraw, and even Unruin. And Unruin is a psychopathic mass murderer whose only goal is to see the world end, and even he sees Unfair as a threat. This man is easily the strongest negator in the Union. Oh, and I forget to mention that he has sharpshooter skills on par with the sniper from Sakamoto days. Well, that's my take on the power system in Undead Unluck. If you liked the video, make sure to like and leave a subscribe. I'm gonna try the best to be more consistent on this channel to post more videos. Until next time, it's the source material signing out.